Madam Chair, we are now live and you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening to all who are watching or listening to the Pitt County Board of Commissioners meeting for April 3rd, 2020 via Zoom. And welcome. At this time, I will call the Pitt County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. May we have invocation by Commissioner Beth Ward and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Tom Coulson.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins, we need to have a roll call vote and also need to excuse Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick for a medical reason today.
Okay, I always want to get the roll call after the call meeting. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. At this time, we'll have a roll call. Madam Clerk.
Yes, Chairwoman.
I'm sorry. We'll have a motion to excuse Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Motion to
So move.
second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we excuse Commissioner Vice Chairman Mike Fitzpatrick. Are you ready for the vote?
Yes, Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Coulson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now, are we ready for invocation? Or do we need another roll call?
Roll call, please.
Okay.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Here.
Commissioner Coulson.
Here.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes, here.
Commissioner Nunley.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Here.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I believe we're now ready for invocation and pledge.
Do you want me to just go on in?
Yes.
Okay. If you'll stand or bow your head if you'd like. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we ask that you look down upon us tonight and give us your strength and your guidance as we strive to do what's best for Pitt County and the citizens. Forgive us if we have made you upset or concerned today, and guide us in thy will. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, everybody. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
of
United
the
States.
United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Ward and Commissioner Coulson. At this time, we will need a motion to amend the agenda for tonight, and we will. Yes. Commissioner Nunley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we remove under items for decision, sale of county-owned property, item number 4, remove that from the agenda, and also move closed session item 11 up to our first item following
The manager's report.
manager's report, and then otherwise approval of the agenda.
I have a second.
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 Okay, it's been moved in second that we amend the agenda with those two corrections or amendments. Are you ready for the vote? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We're now at the public address to the board. Mr. Manager, do we have any signups?
Yes, ma'am. We have 2 people signed up, and if the county attorney will read our statement on public address to the board, we will proceed with calling the 2 individuals.
Good evening, Pitt County welcomes comments on all matters of public concern. When you begin to speak, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. State your name and address prior to speaking, and we'll let you know when your time has concluded. Please note that pursuant to county policy, the commissioners will not respond to your requests at the meeting this evening. Thank you.
First, we have William Gaston.
Scott William Gaston has not logged in. Scott William Gaston has not logged in at this time. The only person on our list is Ms. Newman.
Okay. The second person we had signed up is Yoshi Newman.
Hello, commissioners. This is Yoshi Newman, and my address, I'm going to defer giving the actual house number, but it's Quail Hollow Road, Greenville, North Carolina. I'm glad to have a chance to speak with you all tonight. I do have an agenda item, but before I do that, very quickly, I just want to mention 2 things. One is, if you haven't had a chance to look at the Google Doodle today, and it's that little animated video whenever you go to Google, I encourage you to do that. It has 5 very, very short videos about students and teachers, and just very, very touching stories. And as you know, the Board of Education is meeting tonight with regard to reviewing and approving a budget that will come to you with most likely a significant increase. And I know this was a very difficult discussion last year. I want to, ahead of that issue, just mention that since the schools have closed in COVID, a veteran teacher said to me, no matter how long you've been teaching, overnight you became a first-year teacher. And so in light of all that our teachers and parents and students have been through, to carefully consider additional budget allocations. We have many veteran, I think some number of veteran teachers who are actively seeking to leave the field of teaching, looking for other positions. So a very difficult decision, I know, but again, I know this is important community-wide. But the issue that I actually signed up for tonight is to address Sheriff Dance's request for a change in the contracting policy regarding jail medical records. Sheriff Dance, during the time of her tenure, has shown us to be an exemplary sheriff who point by point and step by step has made the right decisions to best serve our community. I would go so far as to say that she has been the forefront of what many people, myself included, would like to see with regard to a reorganization of law enforcement resources, more toward public service resources. And I'm so thankful for her service, for her vision. Again, it comes down to a budget issue, and I know this is always very difficult for a very difficult decision, commissioners, but in this particular case, I was very surprised to hear that we're still operating with a very antiquated paper version of medical files. So to go to an electronic system is just bringing Pitt County into the 21st century. And it looks very bad on us that we don't already have this system in place. So I'm asking for your support of Sheriff Dance's request, and also just, and part of that being an acknowledgement of what an asset she's been to our county and the exemplary service that she's provided. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Madam Chairwoman, that's all the public addresses we have signed up for tonight.
Thank you. We'll now move to items for report, and the first item to report is a report from our Public Health Director, Dr. Silvernail.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Mr. Manager, Madam Attorney. Let me close that. And all right. So let me say thanks again for listening to me. I'm sure you all are tired of listening to me, and I look forward to the day when I won't have to report to COVID to you with such frequency. Start out by talking about vaccinations in Pitt County. This is where we stand as of midnight last night. Essentially, the state health department follows data through midnight of the day before and then reports it the next day. So today's the 3rd. These are our numbers through midnight on the 2nd, or last night. 55,516 first doses. That would be the combined administrations of Moderna and Pfizer vaccine. 51,217 individuals fully vaccinated. That would be Moderna, Pfizer, or those who have received J&J. 30.7% of our county population is partially vaccinated, and 28.3% of our county population is fully vaccinated. If you had asked me how much would be vaccinated by the first part of May, back in December when we first got the vaccine, I don't know that I would have given you this high of a number. I thought it would have been a slower process. So I think we've done pretty well to have almost 30% of our county fully vaccinated is an accomplishment in a little over 4 months. Vaccine equity, we've been very concerned about this throughout the vaccine campaign, the COVID vaccine campaign. If we look at our African American community, 28.5% of the vaccine given in Pitt County has gone to African Americans. They represent 36.9% of our county population. So they're about they are 8.4% behind. There is a lag in that population. We've closed that gap a little bit. It was 8.6% a few days ago. So it is closing slowly with our African American friends, but they still lag behind by 8 points and change. Our Hispanic or Latinx community has received 5.2% of vaccines given in Pitt County. They represent 6.5% of the Pitt County population. They represent 6.5% of the Pitt County population, so they are lagging by 1.3%. And there are smaller numbers, so we're going to close that gap faster than we are with African Americans, just based on the mathematics of it. For full disclosure, whites are 61% of vaccines given, with whites representing 60% of the Pitt County population, so they're 1% ahead of their breakdown in the Pitt County demographic, but not tremendously ahead. Vaccines are available from a number of providers in Pitt County. They are available through the health department. They are available through Vidant. ECU has been providing these through student health services to students at the campus, as well as some of the faculty and staff at the campus. Dr. Shackelford's mobile team has been out continuing to give vaccines in the county and throughout Eastern North Carolina. And then multiple pharmacies, both some of the larger chain pharmacies and some of our more local pharmacies are in the mix now and giving COVID-19 vaccines. So it is broadly available in the community at this point. And I would mention all persons old enough to receive a given vaccine are now eligible to receive that vaccine. So there's no more stratification of vaccine recipients at this time. Demand for the COVID-19 vaccine has unfortunately decreased. We continue to provide COVID-19 vaccine at the health department. Last week, we decided to take the vaccine to the streets in an effort to increase COVID-19 vaccine uptake. And my staff went out on Thursday and visited some mobile home parks in the Belvoir area and vaccinated residents willing to be vaccinated. They also spent some time at a convenience store and dollar store up in that area. And gave out some vaccinations up there. The number was less than we had hoped for, but they were able to get some vaccine into folks up there. On Friday, they set up a pop-up clinic at the Tropicana store on Route 11 in Greenville here, and were able to vaccinate 20 individuals there. And the manager said, "Hey, the first Friday of the month is really busy. You ought to come back." So I believe they are planning to go back there this Friday and try to do some more vaccinations. We're going to continue to do these pop-up clinics on Thursdays and Fridays for the foreseeable future in our efforts to take the vaccine to the people and make it convenient for our residents to receive the vaccine. The Johnson & Johnson or Janssen vaccine, as you have probably heard in the news, is no longer paused. The blood clot rate reported with use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was 0.87 per million doses given. For comparison, the risk of Guillain-Barré syndrome or GBS after influenza vaccine is reported at 1 to 2 cases per million by the CDC website. And most of us wouldn't think twice about getting a flu vaccine. So that 0.87 per million rate for the blood clots should not weigh heavily on people's minds, but I know that it does because this is a new vaccine and it's an unusual complication. Which has only been seen in women, basically of reproductive years from 18 to 48. So I understand that statistically it is a rare occurrence, but to people considering the vaccine, that may be a roadblock for some people considering the one-dose J&J vaccine. Our Pitt County data, we've been rolling through a little bit of a spring wave of data. This was our data at the last the first Board of Commissioners meeting last month. We were at about 19.6 cases per day, having had 275 cases over the last 14 days. That was slightly increased from the previous set of numbers. Our active cases, we're still at 1.5, which was basically stable at that time. We had about 9.9% of our Pitt County residents infected, a little over 18,000 total cases. Of those, we estimated 17,000 plus were almost 18,000 were recovered, or 98% of cases. And our fatal cases were unchanged at 86, case fatality rate at 0.5, and returning tests were at 3.6% positive. This is our numbers last week when I did my weekly media session last week. We were at 42.2 cases per day. Our active cases were at 3.2 per 1,000 residents. We're up to 10.4% of the county having been infected at some point, with 96.5% of our cases recovered, and we're still holding steady at 86 fatalities. And our case fatality rate was 0.4%. Our percentage of positivity had risen to 7.8%. Our numbers were a little bit higher on the 28th, but they started down on Thursday, the 29th. They were down again on the 30th. The state does not report numbers over the weekend. And here's the numbers from today, and they have continued. So this is the third day in a row that we have come down from last week. 533 total cases over the last 14 days. That's down to 38.1 cases per day. Back just under three cases per 1,000, 2.9 cases per 1,000. Total cases to date, 19,377. That's 10.5% of our Pitt County residents having been infected with COVID at some point. We would estimate that 18,758 of those individuals have recovered. That's 96.8% of our individuals being recovered. And we are steady at 86 fatal cases per the public health surveillance definition that we're required to report based on. Our case fatality rate remains low at 0.4. And our returning test positivity has decreased back to 7.2%. So we know in the rest of the COVID surveillance that COVID has kind of mimicked a typical flu curve. We have generally seen a spring wave of influenza that begins around the third week or so of March and lasts through the first 2 or 3 weeks of April, and then fades away. the data would suggest that we're on the backside of that spring wave with 3 consecutive days of declining numbers. But in COVID, all bets are off. But I'm hoping that we're going to continue to follow that typical flu curve and that our cases will continue to trend downward from here. COVID-19 testing in Pitt County, just wanted to touch on a couple of points here for you all this evening. Testing remains broadly available across the medical providers of Pitt County. We continue to test 4,000 or more individuals per week, most weeks. And those numbers do not include tests that are conducted at home in the Say Yes to the COVID test program, which we are running. This is a graph from the NC COVID data showing our estimated total tests per week. And the blue line is the 4,000 tests per week line. And you can see the last couple of weeks, we've been just above or just below 4,000 tests per week. So I think that's still a pretty good number of tests being run in the community every week. And if someone needs to be tested, there's multiple options for them to get tested. Say yes to the COVID test. As of last week, we had given out more than 12,000 test kits, and that was through the health department and our community partners. Each of those test kits is 25 tests per kit. We did not have numbers based on those that were ordered through online. There's an online site where these kits can be ordered as well. We do know that people are testing because several individuals have contacted the health department for results. They've had positive results and they've contacted us just to make sure that they were doing the right things. I will mention Pitt County is the first jurisdiction in the nation to run this at-home testing program, and we've received some positive news coverage being in the national news agencies. CBS has done a story on this, NBC did a story on this, and there was a print article in the Washington Post about the COVID, Say Yes to the COVID test program last week. So Pitt County getting some national news coverage. That's the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to take your questions if you have any questions.
I see Commissioner Albright.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Silvernell, for the report and for all your efforts. And I think pop-ups sounds like a great idea, and I hope we can continue keeping those down. One question, is there any data on the number of new cases as to whether those people have been vaccinated, and if so, what vaccinations they've gotten?
Not that I have immediately accessible to me. That is something that is being followed right now. I have not seen a summary report, but I will see if I can find one for you. We do know that that the immunity is not perfect from the vaccine, and we are aware of some cases where individuals who were vaccinated have tested positive, but it does not seem to be a large number.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'm looking at it from a different point of view, that maybe people would be more likely to get the vaccine if they knew that the larger percentage of them who were testing positive had not been vaccinated. But anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a few cases, Commissioner, not an overwhelming amount.
Yeah, but I think that information would be helpful for people that are still sort of on the fence. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Commissioner Perkins-Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Dr. Silvernell, I received a call during the weekend about a person who was experiencing problem with the Johnson & Johnson vaccination. And she was trying to find where should she go for help. She was looking for a hotline for it, somebody to give instructions about what to do. Is it all right that I give this person because I don't like being in the middle of health stuff, personal stuff. Give her your telephone number so that she can call you. And she's just waiting, and I just thought this would be a good time to point it out so that someone else who's having a problem can hear.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you can give her our switchboard number and they can refer her to me. That would be fine, Commissioner.
That's the 2300 number?
2300, and I'll let my receptionist know to expect the call.
Thank you very much. And I think I'll be happy too when we can start going back to normal. So let's get the tests, let's get the vaccinations, and let's do what we need to do, residents. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Silvernell. I don't see any more hands, so there are no more questions for you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Same to you. We'll now move to the manager's report. Scott?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman. Several things to report on tonight. One, your next meeting dates beginning tomorrow. We begin budget workshops beginning at 8:30 in the morning to approximate lunchtime for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's May 4th, 5th, and 6th. We also reserve next week as the second week possible if needed for additional budget workshops. We rarely go into that, and I'm hoping that with this year's budget, we will not need it. But if so, it is on the schedule. Atherwise, we meet on Monday, May 17th at 6 p.m. for your next regular meeting. Item B is a litigation update. The county attorney and I wanted to update you regarding the animal shelter litigation and the ongoing nationwide opioid suit. I'm going to turn this over to Janice and ask her to provide the update on this.
Good evening again. Two things to report on. As Scott had suggested, I'm pleased to report that we've resolved the litigation involving the animal shelter construction and renovation project, and wanted to report that out at the public meeting as required by law. You may recall that last year, the surety paid the county $750,000 for damages following a breach of contract by Bernie and Bernie. And we've been holding that money pending resolution of the lawsuit filed by Bernie and Bernie against the county and against the surety. Following a mediation on March 16th, 2021, all of the parties, meaning the county, the surety, and Bernie and Bernie, entered into a global settlement agreement whereby the county paid nothing to Bernie and Bernie, but we returned $250,000 of the $750,000 to the surety to net a $500,000 payment to the county under the performance bond. Bernie and Bernie will dismiss their lawsuit against the county outright, and they've done so today. Additionally, Bernie and Bernie will pay the surety $250,000 in damages in exchange for a dismissal of the surety's lawsuit against Bernie and Bernie's lawsuit against the surety. So overall, I believe this was a very good resolution for the county. I appreciate the assistance of Mike Mitchell and Andrew Atkins at Smith Anderson for their help. Happy to answer any questions about that if anyone has any.
I don't see any hands, Madam Attorney.
Okay, then I'll move on to the next matter on opioid litigation, if I may. And in this case, as you may recall, the county filed a lawsuit against various drug distributors and manufacturers, alleging various causes of action that led to the opioid crisis in America, and particularly here in Pitt County. 76 other counties in North Carolina also filed suit against these defendants, as well as 8 municipalities, none of those municipalities being here in Pitt County, and the state of North Carolina. All of the North Carolina cases were joined with other cases throughout the country, and it appears that this national combined lawsuit is now close to settlement. The proposed national settlement is expected to be $26 billion paid by the defendants, of which about $850 million would come to North Carolina, paid out annually over an 18-year period. That payment would be divided between the state, the counties, and the municipalities with populations over $75,000 pursuant to a formula that would be agreed upon by all 100 counties, the state, and certain of the municipalities. The North Carolina Association of County Commissioners and a group of 5 county attorneys, 5 county managers, and 5 commissioners have been working with the state to develop an MOU, or an MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, as to a distribution formula. And they've come to an agreement on the form of that MOA. That MOA would give 85% of the funds to local governments and 15% to the state. So why such a heavy distribution to local governments? That's because counties are the ones who provide the bulk of human services in response, especially to opioid-related matters. So in order to take the next step and move the national settlement forward, all 100 counties and the affected municipalities must sign the North Carolina Memorandum of Agreement, which sets forth that 85-15 distribution formula. I've reviewed all of the documents in connection with it, and I'm satisfied that it's in Pitt County's best interest to sign that MOA. The city of Greenville, based on their population, will also have to sign that MOA. So this is just for your information purposes today only. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. And at your next meeting, I'll bring back that Memorandum of Agreement for you for your review and approval. That's all I have on the opioid matter.
Okay. Seeing no hands for questions. I want to go back to the county manager and ask him to explain the budget workshop, what they are, for the benefit of the public, and also let the public know when they can have input.
Yes, ma'am. So for the budget workshops, well, tonight, on the item number 7 on the agenda, I will be presenting the recommended budget that will begin July 1 for fiscal year 21-22. This will be the operating budget for all the different funds, the general fund, plus all the other operating funds of Pitt County government. And then beginning tomorrow, and then Wednesday and Thursday from 8:30 to 12, we will have the major agencies or departments coming in to make their budget presentations as well, that coincide with some of the information we'll hear tonight. Some of the requests will go above and beyond what I've recommended. The public will have an opportunity on this budget. We have a public hearing scheduled for June. The staff, Gavin, it should be a Tuesday, I believe. It's in our budget book. Budget 8, June 8th at 7 p.m. as I recall. So the public will have an opportunity through a public hearing to 6. Okay, June 8th at 6 p.m. Okay, thank you. The public will have an opportunity to address the Board of Commissioners regarding the budget as to their likes or dislikes or whatnot on the budget. And then we do have an alternate date, I think 2 weeks later, in case that June date, first June date is not workable with the board, that we could consider it later on.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to explain it a little bit more for the benefit of the public. So if they will have an opportunity to have input.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You may now go to the next item.
Okay. On item C of my report, the PGB letters of support, that the Pitt Greenville Airport has asked the county to, actually I asked the chairwoman to sign a letter of support regarding funding they're seeking from the federal government to repave one of their runways out there. And they are seeking, I think it's about $9 million for this. The chairwoman did sign a letter. One went to Congressman Murphy and the other to Congressman Butterfield. So they are hoping to get this $9.6 million that will add another 20 years to this existing runway. This is not an expansion of any runway. This is a repaving of an existing runway. So I want to be clear on that. And there's always concerns of extensions. On item D, Candlewick, as the board is aware, we have applied for CDBG funds, actually CDBG-I, which stands for infrastructure through the state. These are federal funds. The I is infrastructure for sewer. We're hoping to do the next phase of sewer out there at Candlewick. We unfortunately received a letter saying that our funding did not score high enough compared to other projects across the state of North Carolina. We have been encouraged to consider reapplying possibly this fall. So we'll look at that opportunity, as well as if there are any other opportunities out there to consider funding for that project. And Madam Chairwoman, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Manager. At this time, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
This is Commissioner White. I'll make the motion to go.
Second that.
Okay. It's been moved and second that we go into closed session. Are you ready for the question? Madam Clerk.
If I may read the basis first, it's been suggested the board go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3, attorney-client privilege to consult with an attorney employed by the public body. Also under GS 143-318.11A1, to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential pursuant to this law, or not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the North Carolina General Statutes. For this evening's closed session, because of the Zoom format, in order to begin closed session, everyone except for the commissioners are asked to manually leave the meeting by clicking the red Leave Meeting button, which will appear at the bottom of your screen. When the closed session is concluded, you'll receive an email which includes a link to return to the virtual meeting. So for those clear to participate in closed session, also please wait until you hear verbal confirmation from Public Information Office staff before discussing the closed session matter. And with that, I'll turn it to the clerk for the vote.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes. Yes.
I heard you.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.